President Bush asserting leadership in NATO, countering Gorbachev, offers big deal to cut conventional forces, still no deal on cutting nuclear weapons. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting again tonight from Belgium. Good evening. Memorial Day. First day of the NATO summit here in Brussels, George Bush mounted his spring offensive in Europe to stand and deliver, to stop playing defense to Mikhail Gorbachev's arms control offense. Mr. Bush tried to focus attention away from the NATO division over nuclear missile policy and get the spotlight instead on challenging Gorbachev to reach agreement with NATO on reduction of conventional forces in Europe.
This is to say, here we go. We're out there now with a proposal that the United States puts forward and that has widespread alliance support. Now test it. How serious are you? Are you really want to reduce the imbalances that exist in all these categories, or do we want rhetoric?
Point one of the Bush NATO proposal, to pull out 20% of U.S. combat troops now stationed in Europe, in return requiring the Soviets to knock back the huge advantage they now have in conventional forces. Point two, for the first time, the U.S. agrees to include reductions in combat aircraft and helicopters in the deal. Point three, new ceilings on east-west tanks, armored troop carriers, and artillery. Equipment withdrawn would be destroyed. Point four, speedy timetable for agreement and implementation of such a deal.
Very favorable. I think it's impressive, yes.
Mine is very positive.
U.S. partners in NATO were quick to praise these proposals. Perhaps more important, the West German Foreign Ministry spokesman saw this as a possible route to a solution on nuclear weapons policy divisions in NATO. But Secretary of State Baker made it clear even a done deal on conventional forces would not necessarily mean West Germany will get what it wants, talks on short-range nuclear missiles.
We need to get the conventional agreement to help resolve the imbalances that exist, and then we can begin the negotiation on short-range nuclear forces.
What would you say to those who say, and there'll be some, this was a no-risk shot for President Bush in that the pressure was building in the U.S. Congress from Senator Nunn and others to reduce U.S. forces in Europe. He was going to do it anyway, so he really hasn't given Gorbachev or anybody else very much.
It offers us the potential of making really some rather dramatic and revolutionary progress in arms reduction in the conventional forces area, and I think that they will acknowledge that.
Do you expect him to come back now? His basic posture has been, whatever you bet, I raise you to. Do you expect him to come back quickly with another new initiative of his own?
We don't know what's going to happen, but if he'd like to come back and suggest a further step, that would probably be welcome.
The Bush-Baker shift in policy unveiled today is in part a recognition that this is the new front line in Europe, in the streets and in the cafes, in the heads and hearts of West Europeans. Gorbachev has been scoring with them with his charm and disarm offensive, his more human, more smiling face of communism. It has not always been that way.
Soviet Russia plans future regressions.
Times have changed. The Cold War talk of the 1950s has melted away for many Europeans. For George Bush and his inner circle, the thaw is longer in coming. But what a difference even a couple of weeks can make. Listen to Secretary of State Baker today. A ranking member of the administration called some of Mikhail Gorbachev's moves the moves of, quote, a drugstore cowboy. If you could pull that back, if you could retract that, would you?
I think the person who said that would retract it if he could.
Joining me now with more about President Bush's efforts to match Gorbachev's charm and arms control offensive in Europe, CBS News White House correspondent Leslie Stahl. Leslie, no doubt from the American view, this is a bold, fresh initiative. What's the reaction among the NATO members?
The Allies have been saying they've been waiting for George Bush to assert himself and to come across with a positive proposal, and they think he's done it this time. What he did, Dan, was remove the last major obstacle to a conventional arms proposal deal with the Russians by saying, okay, we will allow troops and aircraft to be considered in the talks. The United States has always ruled those out of these talks. By putting them in, the United States and the Soviet positions are so close that the Allies think a deal can be made within 6 months, a conventional arms deal in Europe. These leaders are ecstatic because they think that this can win the hearts and minds of their people. And let's face it, the name of the game now is public opinion in Europe.
If it has gone down that well, why are they still in this talkathon tonight? They've gone very, very late.
Well, this is all about those short-range nuclear missiles in Germany. Margaret Thatcher wants a statement to come out of this NATO conference that says we will never eliminate all the nuclear weapons in Europe. The Germans want no statement at all because they want that left open. All these missiles are on their soil, and they don't want that kind of statement in there. And they're fighting tooth and nail. George Bush is trying to mediate this because he has to go to Germany tomorrow with Helmut Kohl, and he doesn't want to have a bad trip. But it's Margaret Thatcher who's really fighting down to the last here.
Gorbachev goes to Germany in June. Is he likely to stand pat? George Bush has in effect said, I call you and raise you one. What now for Gorbachev?
The Bush administration doesn't think he's going to stand pat, and they're very nervous about it. They think there's a big possibility that he'll go to Germany, Gorbachev, and say, okay, I'm going to unilaterally reduce my short-range nuclear missiles, Mr. Kohl. What are you going to do? If they're able to paper this over here at NATO, they're afraid that Gorbachev is going to open the sore again in June.
Thanks, Leslie Stahl. In a moment, Bob Schieffer in Washington will have the latest on the deepening legislative leadership crisis on Capitol Hill, and I'll be back from here in Belgium later in the broadcast with more on NATO, the troubled alliance.
Sometimes it seems like every time you look around, your rug is dirty, especially in those places where people walk the most. Well, try Woolite Spot and Stain Rug Cleaner. Woolite contains the ingredient Fiberpel, so it not only cleans today, it helps resist that heavy traffic dirt tomorrow. So when you look up, all you'll see is a beautiful rug. Trust Woolite Spot and Stain Rug Cleaner for heavy traffic areas. It keeps your rug cleaner longer.
For the ultimate electric shave, the Remington Microscreen Ultimate. With exclusive beard lifter, automatically stretches the skin and lifts each whisker. It shaves as close as a blade, or your money back. And all Remington Microscreen shavers, cord and rechargeable, have two thin, flexible screens. The first screen shaves incredibly close, the second even closer. Two perfect reasons why the Remington Microscreen shaves as close as a blade, or your money back. Remington, the ultimate electric shave.
With low back pain, every step shoots pain. Up here. Know what helps?
Clinically proven Back Guard, a shoe insert. Watch how it absorbs foot shock to relieve low back pain.
Amazing. Something down here can help up here.
Back Guard from Dr. Scholl's.
I eat nutritious meals with plenty of fruit and vegetables. So how come I'm the one with painful gas?
Surprise! Foods high in nutrition are often high in gas. But Gas X gets rid of the gas, so you feel better fast. Eat right and feel right with Gas X.
While House Speaker Jim Wright is still planning to resign, the news tonight is he may not do it when Congress reconvenes next Wednesday, as his friends had widely expected. The surprise announcement on Friday that the number 3 man in the House leadership, Majority Whip Tony Quello, was also stepping down, is not believed to be a factor in Wright's thinking. But sources say that Wright's wife and some of his hometown supporters did urge him during the weekend to keep fighting to clear his name. So even though Wright may announce later this week that he intends to leave, his actual departure may not come for weeks now. With the Democrats' misery on the rise, the Republicans spent the weekend rubbing it in.
After a 35-year monopoly of power, the Democrats in the House are now sick enough that 2 of their top 3 people, for the first time in American history, are resigning from the Congress.
Naming no names, one Washington newspaper predicted today that there is worse to come. But with most members back in their home districts, the Capitol was quiet. And Wright himself had nothing to say when reporters spied him late this afternoon. The long-distance lines were busy, however, as the maneuvering to replace him intensified.
I think the mood is let's get this thing behind us and let's get on with the ordinary business of the country.
At this point, Majority Leader Tom Foley, the number 2 Democrat in the House, is all but certain to replace Wright when he does step down. Missouri Congressman Richard Gebhardt appears to have the most support to replace Foley. Georgia's Ed Jenkins, who will contest Gebhardt, conceded today the atmosphere is volatile.
The House as an institution cannot permit itself to get into a dog-eat-dog atmosphere.
Bill Gray, the former chairman of the Budget Committee, has emerged as the favorite to replace Quello as Democratic whip. Arkansas's Beryl Anthony and California's Henry Waxman were also reported today sounding out colleagues about their chances. On one thing, there was bipartisan agreement tonight. The Washington atmosphere has turned as bitter as anyone can remember. And we have more on that now from Eric Ingber.
Politics didn't just turn ugly. It evolved from a nasty presidential campaign that featured the GOP's famous Willie Horton ad. Fixed on revenge, the Democrats piled on John Tower. even as House Republicans were pressing their plan to bring down Speaker Wright as a way to show Democrats are too corrupt to govern.
I don't want to call it a war. I mean, I just think we are in a sea change. We're in a situation, unfortunately, where character assassination has become the politics of the time.
The Democrats, blaming Republican strategist Newt Gingrich for the nasty atmosphere, are eagerly pushing investigations of his book deals. Gingrich answers with a list, he says, carries the names of 17 more Democrats in ethics trouble.
When you get into a feud of this sort, basically you start to pick off and then retaliate until you either end up with no bodies left standing, or you end up with enough weariness that both sides finally say enough is enough.
Many in politics believe the ethics upheaval is not just ugly, it's paralyzing the government. But reformers argue that Congress, by refusing to clean up its own house, brought it on itself.
I don't think people outside of Washington have a sense today that the problem in Washington, D.C., is we've got too much ethical behavior.
For the immediate future, it appears, the dominant politics in this town is going to be the politics of vendetta. Eric Engberg, CBS News, Washington.
In Moscow, communist maverick Boris Yeltsin made a surprise political comeback today. Yeltsin celebrated after gaining a seat in the new Supreme Soviet, when another member stepped aside, the move apparently engineered by Mikhail Gorbachev after large protest demonstrations over the weekend. Yeltsin supporters were angry he'd been denied a place in the full-time legislature, even though he won by a landslide in recent popular elections. In Beijing, it's Tuesday morning, and student protesters remain in Tiananmen Square, but some of them say tonight they'll end their occupation later in the day. The dawn's early light reflected off a new symbol of the protest movement, the Goddess of Democracy. New pictures show the 33-foot-high statue of styrofoam and plaster of Paris built by art students. The almost finished goddess modeled after her famous sister in New York, the Statue of Liberty.
When my arthritis pain acts up, even little things are a big effort. But I don't take aspirin anymore. I take Advil. Advil is the brand many doctors recommend for hours of relief from minor arthritis pain. You know, just one Advil is as effective as 2 regular aspirin. And Advil doesn't upset my stomach the way aspirin sometimes can. So now, I don't even have to think about arthritis. Advil, tablets and caplets, advanced medicine for pain.
It took 2,000 years, but a revolutionary discovery is changing the way men think about coloring their gray hair. It's called Just for Men, from the leader in men's hair coloring. Simply apply Just for Men, and in 5 minutes, shampoo out. Your gray is blended away, leaving your natural-looking color. 5 minutes. Here, look at me. Just for Men leaves your hair looking healthy and fuller, and it won't fade or wash out. Just for Men, in the men's hair care section.
Let's try it on.
We interrupt this shopping trip. Charge it. To remind you the Discover card pays you cash back for every charge.
Super, Dad!
It pays to Discover.
Where does it hurt?
Here.
For indigestion and gas, your medical answer is Extra Strength Maalox Plus. Its doctor-recommended formula neutralizes more than any leading antacid. Ask your doctor about Extra Strength Maalox Plus.
On this Memorial Day, when America honors its war dead, there were ceremonies across the country and favorable weather in most places. Vice President Quayle laid a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns in Arlington National Cemetery. The scene was repeated in New York with more wreaths to honor fallen servicemen. And in Miami, all the armed services were represented at an event that closed with a 21-gun salute and taps. Memorial Day, of course, is the traditional starting point of the swimming season. But along miles and miles of ocean beaches this year, the word is, don't go in the water. Betsy Aaron reports.
This is what summer is supposed to be all about. But in 1989, this is also what summer is all about.
Shouldn't be getting this stuff on my hands. I forgot my gloves. You never know what's in it.
There's a campaign going on now to stop the pollution. From the air, on the beaches, all to prevent what happened last year from happening all over again. Medical waste and garbage washing ashore in nearly every coastal state.
I don't believe it. How could they clean up an ocean? Come on.
Well, they're trying to do just that. Coast Guard pilots spotting pollution before it hits the shore. Catamarans to collect floating garbage, mechanical rakes to comb the sand. And yet...
With regards to high bacterial levels, the major cause of beach closings last year, we should expect the same situation to prevail this year.
Why? In part because sewerage systems can't handle all of the contaminated liquids that pour through the pipes when it rains.
Hundreds of millions of gallons of combined sewage go into the water body.
Flowing through hundreds of outlets into New York waterways, the sewage forming black pools of pollution. That sewage fouled the New Jersey coast. Shore business was off 25% last year.
What keeps the arcades and the food shops here on the boardwalk in business is not really the quality of the merchandise or the food they sell. It's really the quality of the ocean out there. And how you feel about the water this year seems to depend upon whether you're here for business or for pleasure.
Here we go.
Is the water safe to swim in?
I think so.
I'm worried about it. I have kids. I don't want my kids going in polluted water with needles or anything else that's in the water, getting any kind of diseases.
Last month, they picked up 121 tons of garbage on Texas beaches in just 3 hours. That's almost a ton a mile. Last week in Connecticut, a sewage pump broke.
Don't go in the water, boys. You can't go in the water.
And the summer is just beginning. Betsy Aaron, CBS News, New York.
Some good news from the ocean. About a mile off the shore of Stone Harbor, New Jersey today, there was a rare chance to see a whale and her calf. Fearing the whales might be in trouble, the Coast Guard kept all boaters away from the area, but by mid-afternoon, mother and calf had returned to the deep seas. Just a moment, Dan Rather will be back with more from the NATO summit in Brussels.
What's that?
Nothing, honey.
I asked a simple question.
Norman, are you eating something?
It's nothing, honey.
He lies like a dog.
Kellogg's Nut and Honey Crunch. Crisp golden flakes glazed with sweet honey and real roasted peanuts.
Irene, what's that you're playing?
Nut and honey.
Two can play this little game.
Kellogg's Nut and Honey Crunch.
He knows that, I know that, but do the fish know that?
Because a Dean Witter broker earned the trust of David Moore more than 40 years ago, we were given the chance to earn his son's trust 30 years later, and the trust of his grandson today. More important than the relationships we make is how long they last. There are many ways to measure success. Dean Witter measures it one investor at a time. Dean Witter, a member of the Sears Financial Network.
What do you take for diarrhea? The old standby. If you're like most people, lots and lots of the old standby. Well, now there's something more advanced. Imodium AD, with a medicine now available without a prescription. So Imodium AD can often stop diarrhea with just one dose, instead of all the spoonfuls you may need of the leading remedy. One dose of Imodium AD. It can make your first attack of diarrhea your last.
West Germany, where President Bush heads tomorrow, has been leading the way here at the NATO summit in talking up the end of the Cold War. West Germany now asserting itself as an economic, political, and rising military power in its own right. The Bonn government's embrace of the Soviet idea of reducing short-range nuclear weapons is an important symbol of West Germany's changing status and increasing independence. State Department correspondent Bill Plant reports.
Divided Germany, symbol of the East-West conflict which has united the NATO allies for 40 years. Now, just as NATO is getting ready to celebrate its anniversary, the West Germans have a message the U.S. and some of their other friends don't want to hear. The Germans think the Cold War is history.
The post-war true situation is over. The people want to have the idea that peace is really possible, that the Cold War is really over.
It's a broad consensus. From Frankfurt bankers, to country villagers, to Berlin punk rockers, polls show West Germans see Soviet leader Gorbachev as a symbol of change. For them, there is no more threat from the East.
Are you
afraid of
an invasion?
Yeah.
Oh no! Give me a break. Never.
And so if there is nothing more to fear from over that wall, over there, then it becomes very hard for many West Germans to see why there need to be nuclear weapons or American troops. In the picture-perfect village of Bell, American F-16 jets shatter the remote quiet with 150 flights a day. The massive foreign military presence is a reminder of Germany's defeat and occupation. But for these people, it is the U.S. nuclear warheads which are most frightening of all.
I personally would like to see Germany to be neutral, and I would like a nuclear-free zone in this country.
And what about the alliance?
Somehow the idea of the alliance, which was formed right after the war, does not seem to be so present to German minds at the moment. It seems to be fading.
What does excite a lot of people is the idea that warming East-West relations will mean an eventual end to the post-war division of Europe, possibly even the reunification of Germany. Already the Berlin Wall is more open than ever for these Poles selling goods in West Berlin, and for millions of East Germans crossing over to visit. That gives hope to Berliners whose families are still split.
I do not want to have a wall. I would like freedom for everybody. I would like to have no borders.
Whatever does happen will depend on a lot more than people's hopes and fears.
If pigs might fly, and if the Soviet Union might change, a new partnership between Russia and Germany might be worked out so that Europe could have a more benign and peaceful future.
For 40 years, this artificial border has defined Europe, stretching all through Germany to end here in the Baltic Sea. Now, some dream this line can be eliminated altogether. That would change not just the face of Europe, but the meaning of the NATO alliance. Bill Plant, CBS News, Berlin.
We'll be traveling to Bonn, West Germany tomorrow to cover President Bush's trip to that increasingly powerful and important U.S. ally.
It's your 30th birthday, girl. Is it hard to face the world? But there's Folgers to brew, that's decaffeinated too. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Mornings brighten with mountain-grown Folgers decaffeinated. Mountain-grown beans have a more enticing aroma and richer flavor.
No need to feel so blue, that aroma's calling you.
You are finally waking up.
The best part of waking up
is decaffeinated?
It's Folgers in your cup.
You know, 30's not so bad.
Yeah, we're maturing.
The search is on for American Family's third $10 million winner.
Ed McMahon found me.
Me too.
And what a pleasure that was. But who is the missing third $10 million winner? It may be you. In the only sweepstakes with my picture, you may win millions. Even a fast million this July 7th, when I announce the winning number on TV. Imagine you, so rich, so soon, this summer. Enter today.
Good friends and good food, but my stomach aches. My party, and my Lanta too.
Double strength Mylanta 2 with nearly double the acid neutralizing power of any leading regular strength brand.
Because my life takes my Lanta too.
Memorial Day, 1989, Belgium's Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Another reminder of how far and wide was the destruction and death of World War II, and how much we have forgotten. Much is being said these days about the possible end of the Cold War, about NATO's 40th anniversary, and whether the Western alliance that has prevented a shooting war for 40 years can now survive the peace. Lest we forget, this is also the 50th year anniversary of the outbreak of World War II. For many Europeans and Americans, it is not just history. It is living memory, painful memory. On this Memorial Day, Anthony Mason reports on one generation's need to remember and remind.
The army that marched into Cassino, Italy again this month was not quite as spry, but every bit as proud. More than 5,000 old soldiers returned, the British, Americans, Canadians, Sikhs, and Poles, who in 1944 broke through the German line in Italy and cleared the Allies' path to Rome. For more than 40 years, Europe has held on to a fragile peace. These are the men who won it. Cassino was their battleground. The Germans controlled the valley from the monastery on Monte Cassino. It would be one of the bloodiest campaigns of the Second World War. Through 5 months and 4 battles, the Allies tried to take Monte Cassino.
It was purgatory, really. You didn't care whether you lived or died.
The city was leveled, the monastery bombed to the ground. By the time Polish soldiers finally reached the monastery, both sides had paid a devastating price in dead and wounded.
185,000. That's an awful lot.
You were not wounded?
No.
Oh, yes.
25 junior officers from the battalion. Only 4 of us came. Only 4.
Tadeusz Staliński, a platoon commander in 1944, is today a factory worker in Poland. This month he returned to Monte Cassino for the first time.
That is Lieutenant Wagner Józef. He was my best friend I had. We don't know how it happened that we survived. And those who are really in the fighting, they don't like boasting about these things. You see, we feel ashamed that we are living.
But for the cemeteries, the battle scars are hard to find in Cassino. The town has been rebuilt, the monastery restored. And German veterans marched alongside their old enemies in the memorial parade. The Italians welcomed them back.
You've got to forget. I mean, they didn't want to go, most of them didn't want to go in the army any more than I did. So let's bury that hatchet and live in peace.
For 45 years now, Western Europe has been united in the Cold War of nerves with the Soviet Union. Cassino's Polish veterans are victims of that war, too. Many haven't returned to their homeland since it became communist. These Poles are suspicious of the Soviets' new overtures of peace.
I am from the eastern part of Poland, and we know them better. And we are just waiting. We have a feeling that it is going to be better. We have this feeling, but to trust them there, this is another story.
Cassino's veterans returned with pride, but these men who fought the last war have learned the value of world peace and the price paid when it eludes us. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Cassino, Italy.
On this Memorial Day, from Belgium, that's the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good night.
I'm Harry Smith.
And I'm Kathleen Sullivan. Tomorrow, Henry Kissinger on the NATO summit.
Also, Joan Baez and tips on getting your garden ready for summer on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.